Hey, I'm back. Sorry for being gone for a little while. I got sick, and now I'm not sick. So, let's talk about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. The people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa. Okay, so a new Marvel movie's out. Wow, incredible. I have some strong feelings about Marvel recently, specifically. I loved the Infinity Saga. I loved pretty much every movie, except for, minus a few, leading up to Infinity War and Endgame. But after Infinity War and Endgame, a lot of the movies that Marvel has been putting out have been really hit or miss for me. Shang-Chi was awesome. No Way Home showed me things I never thought I'd ever see on screen. But then you have Black Widow and Eternals. Fuck was up with Thor Love and Thunder, huh? So yeah, I was a little skeptical at the beginning of production of Wakanda Forever. It seemed like a lot of things were against this movie. Ryan Coogler had already written the script for Black Panther 2 before the sudden and tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman, and he had to rewrite the whole thing and pay respect to Chadwick Boseman and to the character of T'Challa in Black Panther, but also write a good and engaging story. Yeah, he blew it out of the park with this one. This movie is incredible. He made the brilliant decision of having the characters mourn the loss with us, with the audience. And this movie just takes you on an emotional roller coaster that is honestly gonna be unforgettable. It feels more than a comic book movie. This movie is a tribute to Chadwick Boseman and the legacy that he's left behind. Ryan Coogler pulled off what I thought was going to be impossible, and I am so impressed. There are scenes in this movie where characters are talking about how to react and how to feel about a loss that's so sudden and something that they don't even quite understand why it happened so fast. And when the characters are talking about the loss of King T'Challa, it hits so much harder, because while the character is talking about the loss of King T'Challa, you also know that the actor is talking about the loss of Chadwick Boseman, and it's brilliant writing. I gotta say it again, I'm completely blown away. The performances across the board were all excellent. Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic. Winston Duke is a standout. As M'Baku, like in almost everything that Winston Duke is in, he's a complete standout, and he's just a joy to watch on screen. But one of the performances that I was the most impressed by was Angela Bassett. And I'm already, this movie's only been out for like a day, like publicly at least. There have been press screenings and stuff like that, but there is already Oscar buzz about her, and I mean, like, it's well deserved. Like, honestly, like, I would be very happy to see her nominated. And honestly, at the beginning of this movie, I thought that this was going to be her story, like a story about her, like she was going to be the focus. But no, this movie is Letitia Wright's movie. Letitia Wright does an amazing job as Shuri, and I knew that this movie, that was one of the things that I was a little nervous about going into this movie. Now that we've lost our lead, like the last Black Panther movie, it has amazing side characters with Shuri and Okoye, but when you think about the first Black Panther movie, you think of Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger and Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa. Those are who you think about. And when you have amazing side characters and then you suddenly shove them into the spotlight, sometimes they don't work as well, because they're really good side characters and they're not as good like main characters. But Letitia Wright blew me out of the water. Like, oh my god. Pun intended. Actually, pun unintended, but now I intend the pun because that was good, because, the villains of this movie. Which brings me to the other amazing performances in this movie. The villains. The main villain of this movie is Namor, or they also pronounce his name Namor, but they pronounce it both ways, so honestly, pick and choose. He is played by, what's his name? I'm probably gonna butcher this name. Tenoch Huerta? Here, I'll put the name up right here. He was so good in this movie. Oh my god. Another fantastic villain. I mean, like, that's something that like Marvel has problems with, is usually like, yeah, the movie was pretty good and it was entertaining, but the villain was bland. This villain, he's someone that you can get behind. And thinking back on the movie, he reminds me a lot of like Magneto in terms of motivation. I'm not going to spoil anything and say what his motive is because it's not in the trailer, but it's very akin to like Magneto, so it's you're sympathetic towards him and you can get behind him and his people and his, you know, this whole underwater civilization that's totally not Atlantis. Namor and his underwater civilization was a total welcome addition to the MCU, and I loved it. I loved the lore, I loved the world building, and that's another thing about this movie is it's pretty long. It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes, I believe. You don't feel the runtime at all, actually. There's not a moment where I wasn't invested. The only times where I kind of felt the movie's length wasn't really the movie's fault. It was my fault because I went to a 10:30 showing and it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I was getting tired. So, you know, that's not the movie's fault because the entire time I was completely invested. And I can't wait. I'm definitely going to be going back and seeing it again. Ooh, the VFX. By far, in all of like Phase 4 of Marvel, all the recent Marvel movies and shows, this has the best visual effects out of all of them. I especially loved what they're doing underwater. A lot of scenes underwater are kind of brightly lit, and all the scenes underwater in this movie are dark, like it really would be. Sometimes maybe a little too dark, but like it's dark and murky. And even like the first time you meet these people, like it's creepy. The first time you meet these people, it's done in kind of like a horror way, and it's a lot of fun and really spooky, and I loved it. But yeah, the visual effects are amazing, and the movie is shot beautifully. Like, I mean, it's a Marvel movie, so like the cinematography, it's gonna be good. You guys know how much money they throw into these things. You know, movies cost a lot, so like they're gonna look good. The last thing I really want to touch on before I end this video is Ryan Coogler's direction. He really did pull off something that, like, honestly, I thought would be almost impossible to do, like, completely satisfactory, and that is something that this movie has. It's like, this movie is satisfying, which is so impressive to me. With all of the wrenches thrown in their way making this movie, the fact that it's still so satisfying and tells such a good and honestly like important story about grieving, it just really impresses me. But Ryan Coogler's direction is fantastic in this movie. I love the way that he has the characters mourn with us, you know, like I feel included in the story. Like, everybody feels included in the story because we are all feeling the same things that these characters are feeling, you know, with this sudden loss of this icon. So brilliant direction, brilliant ideas. I'm so impressed, honestly, a little jealous that you know, you know, there's sometimes movies come out where they're just like so good. You're like, man, I wish I was involved in making that. But anyways, yeah, fantastic movie. I highly recommend you go check out Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It's a great theater experience. I was in a completely packed theater and we were all having a blast. We were laughing, we were crying, you know, all together. You know, it's the movie, like when it deals with like those like big emotions of grief and mourning, it doesn't like have like huge swelling musical cues with these sad moments. It just like it's silent and it just kind of lets you sit and feel those emotions, which I thought was like beautifully done. Instead of like, I don't know, like the way they used those emotions in this movie really resonated with me, and it just like, it had impact. So yeah, I heavily recommend seeing Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. If you like videos like this, well, you found my channel, so you obviously know where to find them. Subscribe, stick around for a while. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can be notified of my next videos. Now that I'm not sick, I should be posting a video at least once a week. We'll see how my week goes, maybe 2 a week, who knows? We'll just see if I'm having a good week or not. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let's talk some Marvel. You know, tell me what your favorite Marvel movie is. If you don't like any of the Phase 4 movies, you don't have to talk about any of those. Just tell me what your favorite Marvel movie is, and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you around.